Mr. Gunn, congratulations for the film, for the career. So happy to see you and to see one of your movies playing on the big screen in IMAX. That is quite an experience. As you well know, because you're very active in social media for over a decade, we have had this very intense conversation in the geek community about what a Marvel movie should be, what a DC movie should be, what is the essence, is it light versus dark, and that kind of binary debate, even inside DC, the kind of Richard Donner versus Zack Snyder approach. What is your take on that debate, and in what ways you feel that this movie breaks away from any kind of preconceived label or preconception?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main way is that, the one weird thing I find with online, fans is that humor is supposed to be light and darkness is supposed to be seriousness, but that's not really the case. I mean, this movie is darker than most superhero movies, but it's also very funny. So it has that humor in it as well. And I think that people just get a little bit too caught up on having things one way, as opposed to allowing different filmmakers to take on different projects and experience these characters in completely different ways, whether that's dark and funny or light and serious. I mean, both those things exist, and as well as a million other permutations. So I would hope that this movie works in part because it is just its own thing. It really is a James Gunn movie more than it's a Marvel or a DC movie. It is what it is. And
I said, yeah, it is the most James Gunn movie ever, for sure.
It is. That's true. So, yeah.
Talking about many things existing at the same time, we are all talking about universes and different Earths and what is canon, what is not canon. Where do you think that this story fits compared to other DC or DCU films, and what is your approach to this whole multiverse colliding thing that we are all, it seems, be going in that direction?
I think it's all good. I don't concern myself with it too much. I think that really, I come into this movie and I'm just concerned with telling the Suicide Squad story. And honestly, if somebody asked me, is it in the DCEU or not, I only know that it is because I went on to do Peacemaker, which is very definitely in the DCEU. And I know that, we have other characters in there who are you're going to see in some other movies coming up. And so we're canon, we're for better or worse. Sorry, guys.
Obviously, you had a lot of freedom, but was there one particular thing that you found yourself thinking, I cannot believe that I got away with this thing in particular? And on the opposite side, something that maybe you reframe yourself from doing because you thought it was too much?
Listen, there are things that, every day it was more like, honestly, like people say, oh, you got so violent and they let you do that. And I go, yeah. But you know what's weirder? What's weirder is that Harley goes off on her own private adventure for 15 minutes in the middle of the movie. To me, the fact that DC allowed me to do that is bigger than a shark ripping a guy in half or somebody getting their neck slit. That is weirder. The fact that the way the titles work in there, the flower, all the sort of like, that seems to be the riskier stuff to me. I know there are things that that I pulled myself back on. There's a certain character dies in a certain horrific way, and I actually had his death much longer and more horrific. And I went, it's just it just didn't feel right. It felt like I was milking it too much. So there are plenty of times I pull myself back all the time,
Can you talk about the novelty of working with characters that were introduced in a previous film, and talking with the actors that I assume that have a sense of ownership, in particular, Viola Davis and Margot Robbie?
They don't. I mean, Margot's totally different than Margot's a very, very unique actor in that she is so perhaps the best ever at what she does, but she has no ego. She doesn't have any of that sort of smarminess. And I would say, give her a direction on something, and then she'll say, oh, would she do this in this scene? I don't know. You tell me. You know the character better than I do, because I do. I know Harley a lot. I've read every single comic book practically that Harley Quinn has ever been in. I've seen all the animated shows and movies she's been in. So I know Harley very well. Do I know her better than Margot? I don't know, but I know her really well. But that was Margot's attitude the whole time. She doesn't have ownership at all. I think with Joel, it's like working with him to create a different character for this movie. He's actually a lot different in this movie than he was in the first movie, and we made that change. And then, Viola comes in fully. I mean, Viola's fully baked. Like I never have to tell her. I don't even think Viola thinks I direct, because she's so fully Amanda Waller. Plus, I'm terrified of her when she's Amanda Waller, because she stays in that space, and she's such a sweet woman. I can sit around and talk to her forever about dumb stuff, and then she becomes Amanda Waller. And even though she's wearing this bright pink pantsuit or whatever she's wearing, dress suit, she's scary as hell.
Yeah. I'm from South America. Okay, I'm from Uruguay. It's very different from Corto Maltese. Don't worry, people. You can go visit. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But how was the process of building this fictional country and kind of creating an amalgamation of different cultural elements from the region?
Yeah, that's what it really was. I mean, I started with that. It's in my mind, it's off the coast of Argentina. So we did use a lot of Argentinian type stuff and culture, but we also took from all sorts of Latin American cultures, but other Latin cultures as well. And it's obviously made up of, Argentinians and Spanish people and Mexicans and, Brazilians and
some Venezuelan accent,
Venezuelans, some Atlanta, Georgia people. So it's a lot of different people. But one of the things I really like about DC is that DC is all fictional places. I mean, Metropolis is a made up place, so you can make up the culture. The Gotham and Karak, which is like they're sort of like all those you can so making up and creating a culture, having this brothel where there's a dancing culture of dancing girls who wear macrame inspired outfits that make no sense, but like thinking that goes back like a couple hundred years. That was a lot of fun, and I love that part of DC. It's an imaginary world, unlike Marvel, where like America's all real places and then everywhere else is someplace made up. It's very weird to me.
Absolutely. And Joker was a big success, and I wonder if you had a kind of Joker movie in you. I mean, going full on dramatic, super ultra dark, picking one character maybe from DC or from Marvel.
There's all sorts of other characters I'm interested in doing. Joker isn't really one of them. He's been done well so many times by so many people. I am much more interested in taking characters who haven't fully had their shot, or people who for whatever reason, I feel connected to Harley Quinn. I feel she's one of the easiest characters I've ever written. And so, I'm interested in her. I'm interested in some other DC characters, and we'll just see what happens next.
There are many opportunities on TV with Peacemaker, for example, and other TV superhero properties. Is there any risk? Is there where this superhero fatigue that we have been talking about for kind of 20 years, is there where we have to pay attention to?
Yeah, I think we do, because I think that if the movies become boring and you're not playing with different tones, if you're not playing with family films and R-rated films and all sorts of different types of superhero movies, if you aren't playing with different genres, this one plays with the war film, other movies play with other things. If you don't keep things alive and continue to take chances, then it will die, and that's not only superhero movies, it's just going to the cinema in general, because spectacle films are what people are going to see, and a lot of them are kind of boring. And to be able to, you know, bring artistry and fun, and it doesn't need to be deep, it doesn't need to be all serious, but to bring stuff to it that surprises people, that makes people think or makes people feel emotionally or whatever, to not be doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again is incredibly important for movies in general and for superhero movies.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Nestor. Thanks, man.
Thank you.